Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Welcome everybody. As introduction, I want to remind you that this is the forum that we call the European Alliance Against Coronavirus. Is organized in collaboration between the European Commission and the European Cluster Alliance with the strong support from Neurada and others organizations. And I see that Vasiliki can't hear me. Can the rest of you hear me?
Yes, Antonio.
Yes, Antonio. We are listening.
Yes, we hear you, Antonio.
Thank you very much. So it should be a problem with Vasiliki. Nina, could you please try to help him?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
We were not listening, but now it's okay.
Perfect. Thank you. We have been reviewing this month some industrial ecosystem. We have had a special week on the S3 strategies, now S4, because we have had the sustainability to the smart specialization strategies, and we are returning now to the rest of the industrial ecosystems. Today we will speak about electronics, and tomorrow about the social ecosystem. So for today's session, we will have Oscar Fernandez de Retana, that is representing the cluster Gaia, but is working on the Arteche group. It's a member of the cluster, okay? Are you there, Oscar?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, we are having a network shutdown, so I'm connected through the phone only.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And I have your presentation, so I can follow your indications later, okay?
Okay.
The second one will be Martin Landgraf, that I don't see in the list, but we hope that he joins us later. Okay, so for the introduction of the session, okay, I will share with you information about how is built the industrial ecosystems clusters on this field, okay? I don't think that Marek, yes, welcome Marek. Would you like to introduce this data or should
Yes, good morning, if I may.
Yeah, for sure, thank you.
So good morning, everyone. We'll start with electronics. Unfortunately, we will not have presentation from our colleagues from DigiConnect on this, but we will have a representative there. We will come back with this for digital. But I just we are extracting the data which we have in European Cluster Collaboration Platform. I want to recall that we will update and refresh this data in line with the ecosystem. So this data is just preliminary for us to have the more or less overview. But with the data, so declarations of the clusters, it looks like in electronics we have around 100 industrial clusters with 17,000 members, and 12,000 of them are SMEs. So quite a reasonable number of SMEs working on electronics in Europe. And then the geographical, at least from this data that we have, is clearly in industrial hubs of Europe, in Germany, France, Italy, some in Poland, Sweden, and Bulgaria, which might be surprising, Austria. So here is what we have at this moment in the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. I just want to raise this point that with the refreshment of the new site of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, we will ask for refreshing the profiles of the clusters in line with the framework we have with ecosystems, then we will be more precise. This is just illustrative, and many of them are 9 of these clusters are clusters which have gold label, but this, you know, this famous label which is about the quality of cluster management. Okay, I think for the electronics, for now, let's the services they provide, what they declare, it's typical. But I think the main point here is to have this access to technology services and facilitation of cross-sectorial cooperation when we talk about electronics, and particularly in Industry 4.0. This is the crucial. So if you are talking after yesterday as well, State of the Union of our Commissioner, the European single market built on competitiveness, where we have digital, is crucial. So basically, this is the electronics. I think many people always were saying that this is something we were losing the ground in comparison to our competitors across the world. So particularly in this ecosystem, there will be lots of to catch up or really to reinforce the niches where we still are in the ahead of the others in the world, particularly in Industry 4.0. Thank you, Antonio, for this opportunity. Thanks.
You are very welcome, Marek. I will share now just some information about the volume that we have from a previous presentation. I think it's good to have it. I don't know if it is updated. Probably it's not updated. Okay, I don't know if there are more updated information. Let me check, because I thought here now. But it's good to have some numbers, okay, about those ecosystems. And so in this slide, the numbers that we have is that the electronics ecosystems has around 133 billion in turnover, and as I understand, 600,000 employees in Europe, around 20,000 companies. So that's the introduction, and now we will hear. We will hear Oscar Fernandez de Retana from Arteche Group Cluster Gaia. Welcome, Oscar, and now okay. I will show your presentation. Just one moment, and you can start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be a little difficult because, as I mentioned, we are going right now through a network shutdown at the worst possible moment, and I'm not seeing the presentation myself. So, as you were so kind to introduce me, my name is Oscar Fernandez de Retana. My day job is as the Director of Research and Development of the Arteche Group, and I'm here representing Gaia, the cluster that includes all the electronics companies in the Basque Country region. So if you go to the page, the third page, ICT sector in figures, we have some data of 2019 to put the dimensions of our clusters into perspective. We are in the cluster around close to 270 companies right now, employing over 20,000 people, of which with a very heavy, obviously, the technical content. More than 70% of our people have a university degree. Total turnover of the companies is over 5,000 million euros. And here we have a mix of bigger companies with a big size, working in global markets, multinational companies, and a lot of small and medium enterprises. Export is about 40-something% of the total. So we are one of the major drivers of exports in the Basque Country, and we have an investment of in R&D of about 2.6% of the total turnover of the companies in the cluster, around 135 million euros. Okay. So if we move to the next page, we are moving to the goals, the objectives where we are working right now, main areas of work in the cluster in this environment of increased digitization, working towards sustainability and acceleration of the digitization being driven by all the things that are happening around the situation with COVID. Okay, so the first one on the top left corner is working around talent. This is something that is very important for us. We are a small region, less than 2.5 million people, with a very aging population, one of the most aged populations in Europe, if that is possible, and where we have seen a decrease of interest, especially among women, in careers related to STEM technologies. So creating talent, qualifying people, attracting people is very important for us. So we are working here on 3 areas, trying to avoid losing people to other regions that may have a more attractive, maybe more attractive for people with technical profiles. Then on the qualification and training of people, we are seeing now a transformation that is accelerating between more traditional roles that are becoming less and less available to roles that are more related with the digital industry, and we have to see how we can convert people into these new digital technologies skills, and how we can attract the talent that we don't have and we cannot create within our region from other regions, so that we can bring in new talent that fills the requirements in terms of skills and also in terms of volume of people. The second quadrant is the market, and here, accelerated by COVID, we are seeing an increasing importance of digital sales channels, for which here in Europe we have a strong dependence for infrastructure from US companies. We are lacking a little bit of European infrastructure. And here specifically in our region, we have a lot of projects related to smart grids. This is an area where we have one of the biggest utilities in the world that is originally from this region. And this has driven a lot of activity and a lot of push around energy markets and around energy projects related to mobility, renewable energies, energy storage, and so on. The third quadrant is digitization. And we are working in terms of redesign of processes, especially the ones that we have seen having an increasing importance during this time.
We have lost.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, no, not totally. We have lost you for something like 20 seconds, and
okay.
I don't know. Please continue. We will see.
Okay, sorry.
Because it seems that.
Then I will repeat. I was mentioning before the projects related to the energy market, and then I was moving to digitization. Working in the area of remote processes that we have seen having an increased importance during the COVID period, related to remote inspection, collaborative remote design, telemetering service, maintenance, supervision online, and so on. And then the other one is that is very critical for us right now is the aggregation and enabling of all the key enabling technologies. We realize that data is going to be the raw material of the future, and we are focusing a lot in the whole spectrum of data, from data capture through Internet of Things, to analyzing the data, artificial intelligence, through the presentation of the data, through visual intelligence, and securing the data all through the process to cybersecurity. And the last one that we are working on as a major goal is supply chain, helping our companies to design and rework their supply chains and trying to recover some of the value that has been moved to other regions on the world, and that we have seen that have become quite fragile in situations like what we have been facing with COVID. Okay. So we can move now to following page about singular instrument and action.
We are there.
Yeah. So here and in the next page, we have some things that we have been working specifically on, and a list of projects on the projects page. So here I have to say that we are not alone in all these activities. We have the luck that we have a big commitment from the local government in developing and implementing all kinds of technologies in the region. We have a lot of support from the government in terms of driving us in order to promote certain technologies and in terms of providing support by public funding for technology projects. So the first area related to the key enabling technologies we have mentioned before has been cybersecurity. This has been big for us, and I will mention that later in light of a specific project. The second one is around talent projects, value chain related to the reinforcement of processes and resources, specifically right now for testing and certification of electronic equipment. And in terms of growth, the working in aggregating startups related to the key enabling technologies. One of the things that has been happening in our cluster over the last few years is we have seen an emergence of a lot of small startups that are capable of providing specific technologies related to artificial intelligence, security, or visual intelligence. What we have been doing in the cluster is helping these companies get together in order to develop a complete portfolio of products and services that can serve the needs of all the companies in the cluster, both the bigger companies and the SMEs. And here we have recently changed the organization of our cluster. Our cluster was basically organized by activity, having a group related to electronics, and then contributions of companies depending on company size, bigger, smaller, medium-sized companies, to include representation in the board of directors of the cluster and also in all the working committees of kind of horizontal subclusters related with these four key enabling technologies, the IoT, the artificial intelligence, the visual intelligence, and the cybersecurity, that are now participating and contributing in all kinds of different ways inside the cluster. In the next page, we have the projects that we are working on. There is quite a, this is just a representation of the projects. I'm not going to go through all of them because I can eat all the time that we have for this webinar. But I want to focus specifically on the first two that have been very critical for us. The first one is we have been developing with participation of the cluster a lot of projects related to cybersecurity. And we started 3 or 4 years ago with projects that were focused specifically on improving the cybersecurity of the products, including technical characteristics around cybersecurity in the different products that our companies are supplying to the market. And now, with the support of the government in terms of funding, and also with the support of the Basque Cybersecurity Center created by the government that is helping us on all the cybersecurity stuff, we have started this year a new project with participation of 8 different companies of the cluster around the complete life cycle of the product in terms of cybersecurity, starting with the secure product design, including secure practices for software development, going through the manufacturing processes and to the installation and maintenance of our products through all the life cycle of the products. And this is an ongoing effort. We see projects on cybersecurity, on different aspects of cybersecurity being started and supported by the cluster over the next couple of years at least. And the second one is the talent management that we mentioned before. Here, it's been difficult for companies, especially for the SMEs, to define and to put together into the market adequately what are the profiles and that they need to interact with the education centers, with universities and so on, to have the ways of evaluating, attracting the market and monitoring what are the market conditions and the position for the different positions that they require. So what we have done within the cluster is we have developed what we call an intelligent talent management system. It's an application that is accessible by all the companies working in the cluster, and eventually it's something that we can also provide to other clusters or to other companies in the region that enables companies to define based on certain templates what are the profiles and the competencies that are required for different types of positions in the companies. That allows them to do then a talent evaluation. We have ways of evaluating both technical and soft skills when interviewing and when going through recruiting processes, and also, as I mentioned before, to monitor what are the levels of compensation in the market to ensure that we have adequate compensation to attract talent to our region. Okay. Then if you move to the next page is needs, or some of the ideas about things that we think that we may need or that we may good to get involvement from European institutions and other public administrators. We have a list of things here. The first one is having some kind of push or a strategy for European operators to drive the European electronics into the market. When we talk about European operators, we are talking about bigger companies, multinational companies that have a presence worldwide, even in emerging markets, in the fields of telecommunications, in the fields of energy, in the fields of engineering and construction, that may be able to promote and to take with them European practices and European products whenever that they are providing their products and their solutions to the market. This is something that we see quite a lot in the market, specifically in the energy sector, where we see that whenever an American big company is entering into a certain market or a Chinese company is getting into a market, they tend to drive with them the practices that they use in their local markets and the companies and the suppliers that they are used to employ. And this is something that we see we are lacking a little bit on European. Yes?
Oscar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I think that at least myself, I have lost you for something like 20 seconds. I don't know if the rest has lost you or not. Nina, could you comment?
Hi, Antonio. I'm here. Everything fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's my problem. Sorry, Oscar. Continue, please. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. Okay. Second, and this is something that I think we will mention also later on, is the support or trying to find a way of creating some kind of making the European community a stamp that has some kind of weight around in the market. We see that the Made in China is associated with certain values or with certain properties of the product and the industry, that the Made in the USA is also has some kind of association. We think we'll have a kind of a lack of this kind of Made in the European community as a whole. We can see this as the Made in Germany having some traction in the market, but not necessarily on a more pan-European European basis, correct? And here we're talking specifically on point 2, our support for the creation of some kind of vertical platforms of professional services around some technologies, energy, mobility, or the environment, where we can promote as a whole the products and services of the European community. The third, developing again the point about talent acquisition that is so important for us, is the support for the creation of the right ecosystems to develop and to attract the talent for the European companies, specifically on the sector of electronics and for the small and medium enterprises. Okay. Next one will be the support to reference infrastructures, laboratories, development centers, testing facilities located around cybersecurity and all the technologies required in order to implement all the sustainability agenda and the move to the Green Deal. Okay. Next one, having some kind of ownership or European platforms. One of the things that we find is that we have in certain markets, in certain sectors, a very strong dependence on technologies and companies from other regions. Clearly, in terms of for example, e-commerce platform, we have a very strong dependence on companies coming from the US. We are all relying on platforms provided by Microsoft or Amazon or so on. In terms of electronics, we have seen that there is a very big polarization of electronics towards design in the US and Asian markets, manufacturing in the Asian markets, and Europe is kind of lagging behind. So, and this for us is important in terms of what we say, the recovering some kind of European digital sovereignty and having the support, as we mentioned in the last point, for the design and manufacturing in Europe of electronic components that might be critical for the construction of competitive electronic equipment in the European community. And I don't know if I took too long or not. I think that was more or less okay. But this is basically everything I had in my presentation.
It has been probably long, but perfect, because it has been very, very concrete, and I like very much how you have expressed the needs and propose, in fact, actions. So thank you very much, Oscar, and I am sure that we'll come back to you in the open dialogue.
Okay.
Okay, and now it's time to hear the second speaker, that is Martin Landgraf from the Fraunhofer IPMS Silicon Saxony. Are you there, Martin?
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Bonjour.
Yes.
Buenos tardes. No, buenos, whatever.
Dia.
Okay, buenos dias, excuse me. Yes, you're right.
Thank you for the effort. Martin, should I give you the presentation right, or would you prefer that I present?
If you tell me how to share, I can try to switch, but I'm not so familiar with GoToMeeting where I have to click. Ah, okay. Wait. All right.
Learning.
Give me a second. Okay. So.
We see.
Okay. And you see. All right.
No, you need to switch the view. You need to go to the
to the other how to do that?
Screen. Yes, in the top menu, the second option, in the top menu, the second option. Now.
Maybe you show and I say just next slide.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I can do that. No problem.
Okay, great.
Let me just prepare it. Okay. So now, please go on.
All right.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present the cluster Silicon Saxony and say some words about the situation in our cluster after and within COVID-19 and how we in general see the situation of our industry, electronic industry, from a Saxon perspective. On the next page, there's just an overview where we are. I mean, we switched now from Spain to the southeast of Germany. Silicon Saxony represents, as you can see, over 64,000 employees. And what is more important, maybe it's good to know every third chip which is made in Europe is made in Saxony. So with Global Foundries, with Infineon, also with Bosch, all having fabs here in Dresden, we are the biggest cluster of electronic manufacturing companies in Europe, and we are definitely proud of it. But it's not only the hardware manufacturing industry, but we also have companies from the software and design sector, and also from the equipment manufacturing side and supporting industries. On the next page, there are some more facts and figures about how much companies and individuals are members. You see largely that's industry partners, but also some research organizations like my Fraunhofer Institute are partner in the Silicon Saxony cluster, and of course also some public institutions. The cluster itself, the cluster coordination itself is located in Dresden and consists of 12 employees. On the next page, you see some fields where we believe Saxony has some top positions, especially in the mobile communication, 5G network and research. There's a strong presence of our university. Some important chairs do research on this subject. In the MEM sector and also in automation technologies. And maybe Saxony is a fairly small Bundesland within Germany with only 3.5 million inhabitants. And compared to this figure, with 6 universities and 14 universities of applied science, we have a huge educated workforce and educate skilled people on a high scale. On the next page, if we now going a little bit closer to the focus a little bit more on the COVID-19 topics, the Silicon Saxony cluster has 3 objectives we are focusing on. As you can see, green technologies are also a valid subject for the electronic industry. We translate green mainly with energy sufficiency. I mean, more and more products contain electronic components, and the energy efficiency of these components would bring and will bring a huge advantage to save energy, and so to get to be greener and more sustainable. Second point is, of course, digitalization. That's the core of our cluster activities in the software part, but also in the hardware part. And with COVID, COVID is an absolute accelerator of the digitalization. I mean, if we see this here with the GoToMeeting or Teams and all this online and webinars and virtual fairs and exhibitions, it's the understanding of Silicon Saxony to support this conversion, this transfer to a digital society. And third, resilience, we understand it as a technology sovereignty, and I will come to this later. I think Europe is a little bit behind in securing its own technology sovereignty, as also the speaker from Gaia already mentioned. Okay, on the next page, what has Silicon Saxony cluster done and is doing to fight COVID-19 in specific? So the cluster organization itself, as you can see, did some, of course, as the most of the organizations, they have to transform their conferences and fairs into hybrid or digital events. They did some. They also tried to secure with the purchasing of masks or the support of the companies with clothes and so on, to support that they can go on working. And of course, they also shared best practice. And on the national and even the European level, of course, we try to influence the politics due to go more digital. We come up with papers and recommendations how to exchange or how to manage the crisis and how to strengthen the digitalization within, not only within Saxony, but also on the national level. On the next page, you can see the different fields, software, electronic equipment, supplier, ICT service, and industry-related research, where the partners within the Silicon Saxony cluster are coming from. You see software are the most people employed, and the arrows below these numbers are showing how the different branches within this cluster are affected. And you see it's hopefully not totally surprising. We are not so affected, and the electronic industry, because there is more need for laptops, there is more need for WLAN routers, etc. They even have seen a higher request and more orders. So basically, the industry itself is of course affected by, for example, international supply chains and when they are disrupted. But overall, luckily, the industry itself remains stable. Of course, the cluster management itself, they had to face problems because, as I mentioned, they mostly were organizing conferences and face-to-face meetings, working groups, etc. And all this had to be shut down. So there has to be also some short. We had to shorten work time for certain months. That's the. I try to be precise. What happened with COVID to the cluster actually. So if we now look forward on the next page, so I go a little bit away now from the COVID and cluster presentation. Here is just showed what a cluster organization from the US, a similar one, the Semiconductor Association from the US, just yesterday published what they requested from their governments. And for me, it was interesting to see, as someone from a German cluster or European cluster, we see, if you take the first point, for example, we could see if you exchange the word America with Europe, you could take the same requests for Europe, at least from my point of view. We also see the semiconductor manufacturing is critical. We see that the semi manufacturing in Europe has lost ground in the recent decades. The US has 12%. We are on 10% or even lower. I think some numbers also said 7 or 8% of the total chip manufacturing worldwide are remained in Europe. So it's good if we can say in Saxony, we are the biggest cluster and every third chip from Europe comes from Saxony. But on a global scale, we have to face only, let's say, roughly 10% of all chips produced worldwide are coming from Europe, most coming from Asia. And as you can see, definitely from Taiwan and from South Korea, and nowadays also more and more from China. And like the US, we have to come back and we have to restore and sustain our sovereignty and our autonomy. And that's why I put in this example. But if we go to the next slide, here I brought two initiatives. This is the first example where the European Union already, together with the national governments, did some efforts. Maybe some of you know already this first example, the important project of common European interest, is an instrument by the EU to allow national subventions to certain semiconductor companies in this case. And on the slide, you can see all companies involved from different countries. And this first IPCI is in place. That means it was started in 2019. And I stated too, we believe it's a success. For example, the new fab from Bosch, which was opened, let's say 1 year ago in Dresden with 700 employees, probably was not only possible, but it was a huge factor that Bosch was able to get some incentives from the national government and get the approval from the European Commission for this incentives, this national incentives through this IPCEI. And the same is valid for investment, as investment in equipments, semiconductor equipments, for other fabs like Global Foundries or Infineon or Semi or XFab. And so we believe this is a valid instrument. We should go forward in this way, and together you can see also especially with the partners in France and Italy and the Netherlands, which also has some electronic industry left there. And we believe there is a need for an IPCEI too, for a next IPCEI, which could be started maybe in 2022, with a lightly shifted focus on these 4 topics: safety, security, sustainability, and sovereignty. Good, that's the first example. On the next page, I have a second example. This is on the RTO, also on the Research and Technology Organization side. You may know within the Digital Europe program, there will be such testing and experimental facilities supported, and one of them probably will be the TEF for Edge AI, so for Edge Artificial Intelligence. And the idea is that this Edge AI TEF will provide the technology and chips which can then be used in different industries like agriculture, health, mobility, and industry, means Industry 4.0. And here we see also this cross-sectoral European cluster partnership, which was mentioned at the beginning, could play well. And we hope that we are in the so-called Sunrise Call, this TEF for Edge AI at the end of this year will be included. And Fraunhofer, together with other clusters, and especially in France and in Belgium, could maybe apply and install such a test and experimental facility in a way that we specialize in these different countries and on certain technologies, and then also work more closely together and exchange also even wafers. Good, that's the second example how we could work together in the future in the post-corona era. And in the next, and probably I guess also last slide, there's an example for this European Digital Innovation Hub. Saxony will apply with a focus on Green Digital Saxony. Interesting point here is that we will definitely focus on mutual cooperation of the cluster and the Digital Innovation Hub, and we will avoid doubling of network structures, but we'll use the structures already existing and foster the cooperation of the actors which are already existing between the 3 regions in Saxony, but then on a European level. Okay, and with these 3 examples, I think if you go to the next slide. Yes, I would like to close, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and here you have my data. Thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity to tell you some facts and figures and ideas and project proposals from Silicon Saxony.
You are very welcome, Martin, and congratulations for everything that you are doing. So we are totally aligned with your requests, and we need to restore that sovereignty that you mentioned. but I don't want to monopolize the comments. So now the floor is open. I would like to hear other experiences, questions, challenges. Who is the first? If there are not more, I can. Yes, is there someone? No? Okay. About the recovery plans, okay, I have seen very, very concrete proposals from both of you. And my question is, are you in a dialogue with your national or regional governments to speak about these proposals?
Yes, yes. Actually, from Gaia, I can say just today, our president of the cluster is having a meeting with the Ministry of Industry of the local government in order to lay out the recovery plan. So we are definitely in contact now.
That's very, very important.
Yeah.
Martin?
Yeah, it's the same for Saxony. We are really happy with our regional government here in Saxony because they are backing us in a very strong way, and we are in a close and definitely continuous exchange with them. So we have regular meetings on cluster level, and of course, if there are special topics have to be discussed, we are luckily always have the chance to talk to them. Yeah, so that works fine. It's more the topic together with the regional government to get heard at a national level. It's more the challenge we face. But luckily, it's not. I know it's not forgiven. It's not given. But luckily, on the regional level, we are good aligned because it's for Saxony. It's a very, very important branch. That's high-paying jobs. It's not just. I mean, there are other industries which have probably more jobs in numbers, but due to the key enabling technology we provide and in high-paying salaries, skilled workers, Saxony is aware that this industry is very important for the region.
I would say it's important for Europe.
Yes, definitely, but not every region maybe has this focus. But here it's good that the regional government is fully supporting us. Luckily, yeah.
I don't fully know about how it's organized, the recovery plans in Germany, okay? Because, for example, in Spain, the national government has agreed with the regions to delegate some funding to them, directly to the regions, okay? I don't know if Germany is working in that same way or it's everything centralized. Do you know something
No,
about
it's
that?
in Germany. To my understanding, it's. I mean, if I go for this moment back from the cluster to Fraunhofer, where I come from, research and technology organization, it's in that way that we in Fraunhofer collect project proposals for the federal government, how to fight COVID, but not also how to what project proposal which could be very interesting for future developments like quantum computing made in Germany, quantum computer made in Germany, things like that. And we are working on such proposals for the federal government, but they has to decide then later, are this proposal from Fraunhofer is interesting, or they take another one from another consortium of universities or whatever. This is my understanding how it works in Germany.
Thank you, Martin. Aurora, do you have a comment from your side?
Well, good morning. I wrote my comment. In fact, I really like, I am a cooperative person. I really like when people get together, but when when SMEs especially are like islands because they do different things in regions where they innovate. They're more isolated. So what I think we should do is to focus on European-wide fronts. Not only because of what I'm saying now, as you know, Antonio, and several of you, I'm always focusing on strategies that make Europe stronger and not each country or each region. And I don't like the way the money has been divided because these plans are very focused on each country doing what they want and not what is good for Europe. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, but it could be, and that's something that we could help to avoid from the cluster community, because clusters create international networks, and especially across Europe. And I think this is an area where we can really help.
Yeah, that's why I participate on these meetings. I like that. Thank you.
But maybe comment from me, from German side, I think the electronics industry is a good example, a good branch where to at least to a certain extent we have and we have to overcome this national thinking already, because we do not have a competition within Europe, but we in Europe are so small, as I mentioned, with less than 10% of world market share. Everybody has to be and is clear now. We as Europeans in the semiconductor or microelectronic industry, our competitors are not in France or in Spain. They are in the US, South Korea, and China, and we have to act together to find our way and to strengthen our industry, our companies. And I think the clusters in this area, in the electronic industry, already did a great job, because I mean, there's Silicon Europe, not only Silicon Saxony or Germany, whatever. There's also a Silicon Europe cluster organization where most of the silicon or semiconductor related clusters are under one roof, under the European roof. I don't know.
But you showed these IPCEI funds, and they went to 4 countries. 4.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, okay. I was talking about the clusters and the cluster cooperation. If you refer to the IPCEI, it's not the way that, I mean, everybody is invited, but if in Poland or in Bulgaria there is no electronic industry, then they can probably not take part in this action. But maybe they have other strength. They are good in other industries, and maybe it's, I don't know whether it's the best to build in every country a small fab, or if the branches should. If some branches are stronger in some countries, but other branches in other countries, you know what I mean? So this IPCEI reflects just the current situation, and it was not intentional, you know.
So we could work on improving that and spreading the capabilities through Europe.
Yeah. I mean, we are happy about every country which comes up with new successful companies. I don't know, in Finland or in Latvia, whatever. But in general, we have to strengthen the European ecosystem, because our main problem are not that maybe only that just 4 countries have a relevant electronic industry left, but that we have to see that we as Europe stay relevant at all. And that's why maybe it's better not to fight, oh, why are not 6 or 10 countries there, but to say, in the electronic industry, let's give them a push to stay competitive at all. Otherwise, you know, it's like with, as we have seen with Nokia in Finland. I mean, they are gone. And if we would have questions, oh, why we don't have 10 Nokias, now we have no Nokia. And with the semiconductor industry, we should strengthen what we have. And if in addition somebody comes up with an idea which, and then it comes to new companies, I don't know, in another additional country, that would be great. But we don't have to, you know, the focus, I think, is to keep the market position and to recover from this low level we have reached, to be honest.
Antonio, can I make a question? Sorry, can I make a question to Oscar? Oscar, you spoke about the competitiveness of the electronics and the semiconductor industry in Europe, and you have, of course, what's going on in Asia, especially in Taiwan and China. They are very good in semiconductors and things like that. You have also the experience of US. Do you think it would be possible in the future to have more cooperation between the European industry, the Chinese, the Taiwanese, and the US, the American, or we only have competition? I'll say, do you believe that cooperation can be a possibility or not in the future?
Well, I think cooperation is always possible. I mean, I come from a background in a major North American multinational company, and there, even though we were competitors, we were at the same time in cooperation with some of our big European competitors. So we will have developments in cooperation where we will have benefit of the different skills of the different companies. We have manufacturing that we are selling, where one of us will produce for all of us. I think it's always possible. I think you can never see these kind of things in the industry as us versus them. We are purely competitors. There is always an opportunity for cooperation, and if Apple and Samsung can cooperate, even though they have some rocks every here and there, I think this is a way where we can all cooperate and try to put together opportunities of cooperation whenever it's possible.
Thank you, Oscar. So, any other comment, question?
Antonio, if I have a question to Gaia, if I may. I think excellent presentation, particularly the slide where you express very explicitly the needs. You know, in this, Jem put the State of the Union addressed yesterday, and there's an announcement that we will be reviewing the industrial strategy. This kind of ideas are very helpful. I wanted to ask you about this, the first point you mentioned, the launch of a strategy of European operators who position themselves in emerging countries and serve as a channel to position European electronics in the world. Who are the entities you mean in this notion of European operators in electronics? In your view, if you can further develop on this. I understand gathering.
No, when I'm talking operators, we are not talking about the electronics companies. We are talking about companies that are in different segments on the market, that are in telecommunications, mobile phone operators, energy utilities, and so on. These companies in general, for example, in railways or in installation, that can drive in the products and the solutions that they provide to the customers, European electronics altogether.
So user-driven, application-driven.
Exactly. It's people that can take with them European products and European practices and drive utilization of European electronic products into their customers and the markets.
Okay, thank you.
So we are speaking about growing markets for the European products.
Yes.
Okay.
And then when you are talking about vertical platforms for professional services made in EC, what you mean exactly? Then it's sectoral, no?
I think we are meaning about creating a platform in Europe where we can provide a complete offering of products and services around IoT or cybersecurity to the market.
So give a label for this as made in EC or?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that very well.
No, because there's a lack of label. Because you said made in EC, so it's like a label to guarantee that the quality is
yeah, correct.
Is good. Okay. No, thank you. Very helpful slide. Very useful.
So thank you, everyone. As Marek said, yesterday the President van der Leyen announced the reviewing of the industrial strategy for the first semester of next year, and that is an important opportunity to be there and to defend our presence and our capabilities. Okay, but it must be done as a joint effort from the cluster community to define this kind of proposals and to defend them. So that's something that we have now in our agenda for the next month. And you are invited to contribute with your proposals. It's time to finish today, okay, but I would like also to remember you something that was mentioned on past Friday, okay, in relation with our collaboration with the S3, S4 now strategies. The DG Regio has opened a public consultation, okay, on interregional innovation investment. It's open, I think, until the end of the month, probably, and you are invited to answer it, okay? In the chat, I have published the link. It's very important for us to be there, okay? In fact, it's quite simple to answer, okay? It's not very complicated, but it's important to be there to say, and particularly, I will suggest to include clusters as one of the instruments, okay, that are not mentioned on the list of instruments. You are seeing here as a prefill, okay? So this is my suggestion for every one of you, okay, to help to develop the new interregional innovation investment policies, but also to support the presence of clusters in these policies, okay? And with that, I again invite you to come to any other of our morning session that could interest you. Tomorrow we will have one on the, sorry, because I want to be sure, the proximity and social economy industrial ecosystem, and I will be very glad to have you tomorrow with us. Thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.